Hey guys, it's Rich Boy J here, back again with another video, and this is going to be part 2 of your questions answered. So I've gone ahead, I've picked out 7 questions that I'm going to answer for you guys, and you want to stay tuned because your question might be in the video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. SuperGamer2791 wants to know, love the video but got one question. What was the hardest, most time-consuming MOC, and also what MOC am I most proud of? So this is kind of a difficult question because during the design process and build process of a MOC, your constraints can be one, like how long it takes you to actually design it, and two, how long it takes you to build it, but then also how long you're waiting for parts. Like if you don't have all the money to buy all the parts up front, then you probably are going to space it out over some amount of time. So even though if you had all the parts initially, you could probably knock it out in like a day or two. That can end up being stretched over many months if you're waiting for more money for parts to come in. So that's kind of the caveat with this question, but I'll try to answer it as best as I can. So just from sheer length of me like starting the project and finishing it, it was definitely my AT-AT walker. I finished designing it actually for the first version of it at least over the course of a weekend, so probably about 2 or 3 days, and then after that I started building it. I ended up redesigning it and then rebuilding it, and it wasn't like 100% finished until about a year after I actually started designing it. So while if I, let's say, took the time to design it and like got it from its first version to its final version, I'd say maybe it'd take me a week or so, and then if I actually built it, I could probably build the entire thing in a day. It's not that huge of a build, but yeah, that's really kind of hard to answer. As far as like what's my favorite or my MOC that I'm most proud of, I gotta go with the Scarif MOC so far. I think that one really pushed the limits of what myself and Garrett could really do. It was a very ambitious project because one, we didn't have a lot of time, and two, neither of us had ever done anything that big. In fact, Garrett hadn't even made like a MOC up until that point. So it pushed our limits. It really showed us what we're capable of as builders, and I'm really happy with the way it came out for the amount of time that we were kind of constrained to, because guys, we built the thing over like a month and a half, which is ridiculous to think of a MOC that's that big. It's about 16 feet long, 2 feet wide. But we were able to get it finished, and well, as finished as it was at that point, and take it to a convention, and it had a pretty positive response. We even got on Beyond the Brick for it, cheap plug. So I was really happy with the way that came out, and I think that the way Crate's looking, it's probably going to be my next new MOC that I'm most proud of. So thank you for your question. Let's move on to the next one. The Oblivia Stormtrooper wants to know, he says he's my best mod. He says, I was just wondering how you started making money when you were younger to buy more bricks. Also, how do you come up with your amazing technique so easily? I mean, that ATM6 is beautiful. How do you design these so easily? Honestly, you would make an actual effective LEGO employee, unlike the many lazy employees that make the sets extremely downscaled and inaccurate. Love your videos always. Have an amazing day. So this question has a few parts to it. I'll try to get to each part. He says, how did I start making money when I was younger to buy more bricks? Well, I wasn't really building MOCs when I was younger. I didn't know what Bricklink was when I was a little kid. I just got the sets that I got for like birthdays, Christmas, and just gifts that I got, and I used that to kind of build. But I wasn't really making a lot of MOCs, so I guess I didn't really try to get more money to get bricks. I just used the bricks that I had. But also he wants to know, how do I come up with stuff so easily? I definitely wouldn't say it's easy. Oftentimes for me, I'll start building and I'll kind of get overwhelmed because I'm always thinking about, what's the next part that I'm going to have to design, or like, how am I going to get this thing done that right now I currently don't know how I'm going to do. So at that point, I really just try to take a break. I try to step away from the project. But ultimately, that's kind of difficult for me because I'm the kind of person where once I start kind of working on something, like I have to get it finished at that moment. Like I have to keep working on it, and like the juices start flowing, and I'm really feeling it, and I just back the whole thing out. So that's kind of why I designed my AT-AT so quickly initially. And same thing with the ATM6. It took me about a week and a half to 2 weeks to actually get the final thing finished. It's a 15,000 part build, so it's quite big. But that's just really the kind of person I am. Some people would rather space their builds out over time, so like work on multiple things at once. Me, I have to like finish everything kind of in its own place. So like I started the ATM6, I want to finish that as quick as possible so I can move on to the next thing that I'm designing. That's just the way I build. As for the speed of it, I don't know. I've been using LDD for quite some time now, so it doesn't, I don't think, slow down my build. In fact, it actually speeds it up because it allows me to like copy certain elements as well as mirror things, apparently. So that kind of sped up the build process and it helped me out. And the last part of this question, he was saying that I'd be an actual effective Lego employee, unlike the many lazy employees that make sets extremely downscaled and inaccurate. So a few things with this. One, the thing that you guys have to understand is when it comes to Lego sets, they are far less constrained than I am when I'm making a MOC. Like, my MOC doesn't have to stand up to a kid playing with it. My MOC doesn't have to like fit under certain price criteria or size criteria or anything like that. I can pretty much build whatever I want within the capacity I have to like buy bricks and stuff like that. Lego is working under far more crucial circumstances, so you can't really fault them for not releasing a minifig scale ACM6 or something ridiculous like that. I think usually when it comes to their sets, if they're given the right source material, which sometimes doesn't happen with these new movies, they're pretty good and spot on about getting the details done correctly. Of course, you have some outliers like the most recent Grievous speeder bike, which is way too big for what it should be, or the most recent MTT, but I think generally they do get things down pretty right. So I wouldn't really fault them for that. It's something that it depends on many more circumstances than I am constrained by. So that's going to finish up that question. Appreciate your question and the nice things you said about my building, and let's move on to the next one. BC Production says, have I ever been bullied for lacking Lego? I really did like this question because I feel this is something that a lot of people in the community may have to deal with. I mean, a lot of people who aren't in the hobby will look and dismiss what we do as just playing with children's toys, which is fine. Like, I can understand why someone who doesn't get hobbies and get collecting would probably think that, because at the end of the day, Lego is a children's toy. However, the way I see it is Lego for me is, for one, like a collecting thing. Like, I do like to collect Lego sets and the minifigures, and when it comes to Star Wars, you know, I'm always on board with pretty much anything Star Wars related. But for the most part, Lego for me is merely an art medium. So some people like to paint, some people like to sculpt, some people like to express themselves creatively in different ways. For me, that's through Lego, and it works for me because it's an entire system that allows me to kind of think critically and figure out how certain shapes can be recreated with certain pieces, and how I can you know, just like build things and replicate things that I see on the big screen, like in my own home. Like, I can recreate an entire battle like right there in my living room or in my game room. So for me, it's a way to kind of, it's a creative outlet for me. And I think for a lot of people who do build MOCs, it's like that for them as well. But even if you aren't building MOCs, it's still just a collection like any other collection. I think that anyone who can understand hobbies and can appreciate collecting isn't going to bully you or look down upon you for buying Lego, collecting Lego, building Lego. And especially with the way society is kind of trending now, I feel like nerd culture is becoming more and more mainstream with the popularity of superhero movies and just the popularity of Star Wars, that these things are probably becoming more and more accepted. So let's continue on doing our Lego thing, and if the people out there are going to support you, we're here to support each other. So hopefully that answers your question. And I guess that to explicitly answer your question, fortunately, no, I have not experienced any bullying for liking Lego. So hope that did you justice. Now let's move on to the next question. Alright, S. Dunlia 510 wants to know, do you think Lego will make UCS sets for the sequels, and what would you like to see? I do think that they're going to make UCS sets for the sequels. The BB-8 almost got there, although it's technically not classified as a UCS set, but it's definitely trending in that direction. And I feel like because the sequels are so popular right now, that they're probably going to end up making UCS sets of them at some point. As for what I would like to see, there's actually quite a few things. I would love to see, of course, this First Order Star Destroyer. That's probably my #1, just because I love Star Destroyers, and that First Order Star Destroyer might just be my favorite version of the Star Destroyer. So I would love to see that in a UCS form with updated parts, and I can put it right next to my UCS Star Destroyer. If they release that, it probably will become my new favorite set. So I would like to see that. I think that a Resistance Bomber done in minifig scale would be excellent. The Resistance Bomber is probably my favorite ship from all the new Star Wars sequels that have come out. So gotta go with that. That's pretty high up on my list. Outside of that, let's see, maybe I'll throw in a playset style set. I think a Maz's castle would be pretty sweet, kind of done like I don't know, Ewok Village type style. So it'd be a big playset, but it would come with, you know, a big castle with an interior and a lot of the characters that we see in Maz's castle. So I think that'd be really interesting because, as everyone knows, my favorite lady in these new Star Wars movies is Mazina Tal, and I think it is an absolute disservice to her amazing performance in The Force Awakens that she still does not have a minifigure. So let's go ahead and get that training, guys. Let's get that UCS Maz's castle made so we can have Bazine. Alright, hopefully that answers your question. Moving on to the next one. Bailey's Bricks says, what is the next large minifig scout vehicle that I want to build? I've had two on my mind. So one was the Resistance Bomber, which I think I will do at some point, but the one that I think is going to be right next is going to be the Corvus from Battlefront 2. Now, it's not going to be minifig scale, but I figure that this is in the spirit of what you were asking, because if you guys didn't hear, I mentioned it on a stream, and that my next big mock is going to be Vardos. I'm going to be working on that, so I got to have the Corvus in it, obviously, so I'm going to build a big version of that. I'm going to try to add as much as an interior as I can. We don't really see too much of it outside of the bridge, but I think insofar as there's like a crew on the Corvus, I'll try to add in anything that would make sense to be there, take a few creative liberties, and it'll be the first custom Star Destroyer type thing that I've made, so I think it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, the Corvus is going to come pretty soon. And now, SW Bricks Production says, what was my favorite planet in Star Wars excluding Crate and Scarif? And also, Crate or Scarif been harder to make and why? So this is a two-part question. First, he wants to know what's my favorite planet in Star Wars excluding Crate and Scarif. Well, for one, neither Crate nor Scarif is my favorite. So my favorite Star Wars planet is probably Coruscant. I just love the fact that there's a bunch of speeders going around. It's kind of very urban. It seems like the most like realistic place that people would be living in. I guess, well, that's not necessarily true. Yeah, I think I gotta go with Coruscant. Coruscant's probably my favorite. I'd love to do a Coruscant mock. I feel it would be kind of a difficult thing to implement because everything would have to be so big. Every building would have to like be built up pretty high to recreate the look of Coruscant. But Coruscant is my favorite Star Wars planet. And he wants to know which one was harder to make, Crate or Scarif. As far as like which one just required us to think a little bit more, I'd honestly say Crate, because one, we did think a lot more about it. With Scarif, we were under such strict time constraints, so we didn't really have too much time to think. We really just had to go and start building and hope that it all worked out. Fortunately, it did. So that was very nice, but I wouldn't really say that it's been as difficult as Crate has been, because Crate has required a lot of planning, especially with trying to figure out like where like the red impressions in the ground are going to be. That requires a lot of forethought, because you know, you can't just start building and put the salt down and you're done. You have to think, okay, like, am I going to need red plates under this? Is there going to be like some sort of explosion or some line that has to go through here where I need to make sure I have the red plates under it? Because I mean, I guess in an ideal set of circumstances, we could just do red plates under all the salt, and then at the end, like if we need to peel some up to make an explosion or something, we can just do that. But we don't have an unlimited amount of red plates. We have a lot of plates that are other colors, which means that we need to use the red plates only where they're absolutely needed. So that requires a lot of forethought, and it's been quite a challenge, because a lot of times we end up having to peel up a lot of the white, like the plates that we put under it, because we're like, oh crap, like a line needs to go under here, so we'll like peel it up, put the red plate, and then put the salt on around where there's going to be an explosion or something. Outside of that, I had to actually design the ATM-6 for this mock. I didn't really have to design the AT-ACT for the Scarif mock. I just had to kind of modify my AT-AT, which was pretty straightforward, but the AT-N6 was a complete ground-up design that I had to come up with, so that was certainly a lot more difficult than just modifying the AT-ACT, so hope that helped you out. And now the final question is by W Productions. He wants to know, what is the oldest Lego set that I own? So the interesting thing about this is it's not a Star Wars set. The oldest Lego set I own is the airport shuttle. I think it came out sometime in the 80s. I'm a huge fan of the Lego monorail system. I think that it's so nice, and it kind of it's something so unique that like the train system that they have now, it can't quite replace that. Like, I feel like at some point they're gonna have to introduce some new monorail system to fulfill the desires of the people who want something like that. The train is not sufficient for that. And the airport shuttle, honestly, like, if you think about the time, it's such an unreal type of set. Like, it's so large, it takes up such a large area. I mean, it's one of my favorite sets, but I can't keep it displayed because I legitimately do not have the room for it, which is a lot coming from me because I have like a big Citadel back there. I have UCS sets all around this room, but the airport shuttle is the one thing that, like, unless I kept it literally in the middle of the floor the whole time, I wouldn't be able to put that thing anywhere in this room. So it's a very large set, and I think it's just a really cool concept. I've always been very interested in Lego airports, so having like an airport shuttle that kind of takes you from like the parking lot to the airport terminal, it's just very fascinating to me. I love the monorail system. We were actually able to implement the monorail system into the Scarif MOC, so that's one of the benefits with that you can't really get with the train system. Being able to have that cart go back and forth in and out of the Citadel, that was something that we needed the monorail system for, and fortunately for us, I had it. So yeah, airport shuttle is one of my favorite sets of all time, probably my favorite non-Star Wars set of all time, and also the oldest Lego set that I own. So hopefully you guys got something out of that. That's going to finish up this week's episode. As I always say, if you guys want your question on your questions answered, just go ahead, leave it in the comments. I'm going to be getting back to a lot of these. And also, one thing I do is I go back to questions that are on other videos. So if there's, on other, yeah, like the older videos. So if there's something like I really like that I couldn't get to in the last video, have no fear. Your question could end up coming on next week, but the week after that. So make sure you guys are continuously tuning in to see if your questions are going to be answered. So go ahead, drop your Lego or Star Wars or Lego Star Wars related question in the comments. I'll get to them. Always, guys, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon with some more content. Thank you all for watching.